everyone, I'm Elaine Chow.
And I'm Trist Curless.
And welcome to The Musician's Loop.
Loop, like a drum loop?
No, like the kind of thing that a jeweler uses to evaluate gems.
Oh, like a magnifying glass, like what we'll do on this podcast, actively listening to music like a musician.
That's right. And every week, we are choosing a track to dive into together and share our thoughts about what we find intriguing about the song.
Whether it's songwriting, chord progression, instrumentation, recording technology, arrangement, whatever, we're looking at the music we love through the lens, or the loop, of decades in the music industry.
Hey, Trist, what do we have this week?
Elaine, we have something exciting. I think this is already going to be a record breaker, and we're only on the, 6th or 7th or 8th?
Yeah, this is episode 7. Yeah.
Number 7th. So I think this will also be the record. Whenever we're done, we can look back, and this will still be the record for the artist that we include that has made the most albums.
Okay.
And that is Mr. Johnny Mathis, who recorded 74 albums.
74? Holy cows.
I mean, just the budgets for the albums that he's made could probably fund a small country. Anyway.
I mean, 74 is a lot, and he's still alive, right?
Oh, yeah. Alive and kicking.
Yeah.
He only just recently retired even from performing, so he did it his whole life.
Yeah, and I'm thinking even if you started at like 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there, that's more than an album a year if you just think about it that way. That's incredibly productive.
Yeah, started very young in life.
Well, which track are we listening to?
We are going to listen to In the Still of the Night, I'll Remember.
Okay.
The I'll Remember is actually to differentiate it from a very famous song from Cole Porter. Okay. In the still of the night, like an old Cole Porter tune. Then this other famous song just called In the Still of the Night. So to avoid confusion, oftentimes they would put the I'll Remember in parentheses, sometimes before and sometimes after the song. But this is the doo-wop kind of a song that you might remember from the Five Satins, I think it might be.
Yeah, that's the version I know. So as we get settled into listening to this, can you remind everyone how we should be listening to music?
Well, I always like to encourage folks to, since this is all about the listening and the musician's loop, so taking a closer look at the music and maybe hearing something you didn't hear before in a song, I just like to recommend that everyone gets the best listening situation they can. Maybe it's not the case. We're just thrilled you're listening regardless. But if you do have the option to grab those better headphones, go to the cool listening room that you have in your palace, etc., and listen to the selection for the day.
Awesome. So we are going to drop the links into the show notes. So give it a listen, or 2 or 3 or 4, and we'll be right back. All right. And we are back. Oh, holy cows. I was listening to this and thinking, wait a minute, you said doo-wop, but this sounds like Take 6. And then I looked at the people who were singing in it, and I'm like, that is Take 6.
That's
what?
Right.
And I think a big part of that was their arrangement, right? Not just the voices and the quality of the voices, but also there was something very distinct about the arrangement that reminded me, oh, wow, this is Take 6.
Absolutely. For those not in the know, listening there, Take 6, a 6-man a cappella group specializing in gospel, R&B, jazz, pop, all kinds of things. Definitely steeped in the close harmony tradition of most jazz music. This is very much almost like, okay, it would be very similar if he commissioned a jazz band arrangement, like a big band arrangement. A lot of the chords, the voicings, the figures, the feel kind of feels almost like a little jazz band playing with them, but it is indeed Take 6. I feel like I remember a conversation about the fact that his assignment was, great, yep, we want you to do this with Johnny Mathis. The only thing that we ask is you let Johnny Mathis just sing the song as it is. You can do anything you want in the arrangement, but we want Johnny not to have special instructions. You know, oh, on the bridge, you need to sing this melody different, or you need to change stuff because we did this cool reharmonization and you have to sing a different note. None of that. Just whatever you do, we want Johnny Mathis to be able to sing the song that he knows. the doo-wop sound that he knows. So that was so, even though all that stuff around him is different, the melody is like, if you took it out, you could put a whole other basic doo-wop arrangement and it would sound like what you're used to.
That is exactly what I wrote down. I wrote down that he sang it very straight, but the rest of, it was incredible. I don't want to say like it was bananas, but it was just, wow. It was incredibly interesting behind it. And just hearing the story just adds so much flavor to what I heard. Now,
it makes sense.
Yeah, it was really interesting to me because I was listening to this thinking, all right, I can hear that this is take 6. And to be fair, I have heard of take 6 long before I started to actually listen to take 6. And the first time I actually saw them in person was, I think, just like a year and a half ago. So it was quite a surprise to me to be able to recognize what a take 6 arrangement really sounded like. But one of the things that I was thinking about in the take 6 arrangement was, what makes this a take 6 arrangement? Like, what was it that really sparked my recognition of the style? Because I had grown up with the 5 Satins version. That was something that my dad played a whole lot when I was growing up. So I was very, very familiar with the song.
It was very popular.
Yeah. And so I was taking a look at this take 6 arrangement and I wrote down a whole bunch of things, mostly based off of, I think, their Christmas album, which you had recommended to me a few years ago. But there was the walking bass with the syncopated backgrounds. There was a whole lot of close vocal, like close chords, which is what you were talking about before. And there was a lot of what I would call the subtle tension that comes with jazz chords, right? Of the addition of the inner notes that aren't on the basic chord structure. So what I'm talking about 1, 3, 5. And that was something that is so distinct from doo-wop, right? If I think about doo-wop, there's a lot of 1, 3, 5. You don't hear a whole lot in classic doo-wop without
pretty basic chords in doo-wop.
Exactly.
The occasional dominant 7 chords is about it.
Yeah, so I hear that. And then there was something that was very rhythmic, like where the background vocals filled in the empty spaces, right? Where an electric guitar would fill in some kind of an arrangement. I don't know if there's a technical term for it. Is there?
Right. Well, that's just the key to incredible arranging and why they're so good at what they do. Whether this was Cedric or whether it was Mervyn Warren or whether it was Mark Hibble, all of them would know, oh, okay, we're kind of replacing the band. So they walk that line of like, even in the way they'll change their sound, it's like, oh, the role of this is we're singing what the background singers would sing. And then on the very next thing, oh, we're going to do this close, we're going to hum or sing a quiet ooh, because we're doing what the piano player would do or the strings would do or what the saxes would do, maybe do syllables that are more like what horns would do. They're like hearing what instruments would happen and then placing that within their voices, not only harmonically, but rhythmically. Again, because since there is no other instruments, well, other than the solo that we'll get to, there's no accompanying instruments that is. So they kind of have to do all of the harmonic structures as well as the rhythmic feel of what's going to change in the sections, etc.
Yeah, I think the word I was looking for was interstitials.
Okay.
You know, the things that happen in between.
Right.
I also heard what you were talking about in their voice quality, because I wrote down, there were points where the placement in their voices was much more brassy. So it was much more, I'd say like from a vocalist, a little more in the front as opposed to more smooth or more legato. And I think that's a really good illustration of exactly what you were just talking about.
Yep, indeed. And throughout their repertoire on their own as well with others, it's kind of like, okay, what is this spot right here? It's still these 6 humans singing, but my role here is, the 4 of us are like what the horns would do right here. So it's this different vowel, it's this different brightness, different placement, different syllable. And then this is just like, this is like all 6 of us are just the filling in what a keyboard pad would do, just filling in what the chords would be.
Yeah, and I love that because it extrapolates to what I wrote down about the bass, because the bass singer had this little staccato section instead of more of a legato feel just before the key change. And that little bounce was very much more like a plucked bass, or I don't know if it was plucked bass, but it just had a little more space in the bass vocal.
Right.
Was there anything that you heard as another bass vocalist, right?
Well, that would make sense, just doing little things to rhythmically set up a key change or a new section, etc. So that totally makes sense. And the nice thing about that as a bass, again, my role is mostly, okay, I'm what the bass player would play. And then every once in a while, you can just, oh, now I'm going to be the lowest version of a group of singers. So I'm going to sing the words with them. I'm going to sing homophonically kind of the same figure, almost like you're the bari sax that comes into a sax section. And then instantly you can go back to your role of being what the bass player would play.
Yeah, I wrote down, it was like a reminder of, oh, hey, I am also a human, right? There's in there.
Right. Shout out Alvin.
Do you think, and I just don't know enough about choral music or vocal music in general, by the time I entered into vocal music, there was very much this role of the bass singer as the bass guitar, like more of a vocal band kind of experience. And I see that Take Six from a very early time was doing exactly the same thing. Where in, and now I'm getting into kind of music history here, where do you see that being introduced versus a more choral, hey, I'm singing the same words as everyone else, but maybe delayed, or I'm holding a part of the word like you do in some of the more traditional choral pieces?
Well, while they're not like the first as happening before, but I think Take Six themselves are very integral in that. Other groups before, like the group The Bobs, the Persuasions.
Oh, yeah.
Persuasions did quite a bit of that, and they were a little closer to doo-wop, but they would have some things where, yeah, it was the bass was more like a bass player, more like half and half maybe.
Did we see a lot of that in doo-wop?
Well, here's the main difference. So in doo-wop, in more traditional classic doo-wop stuff, that sounds like a human singing the part that a bass player might play. Whereas if that sounds like a human trying to sound just like what the bass player would play.
Yeah, and
right?
that was
I'm not
definitely
trying to sound. I'm taking an effort to try to sonically get you to the place where you believe you're hearing the instrument. Whereas it's like, oh, that's a guy. We know that he's doing what the bass part is. They don't have a band. He's like doing the bass part. But it's not taking you sonically to a place where like, oh, I'm hearing them sing and I feel like I'm hearing an upright bass player with them. There's not that sonic journey that you go on in doo-wop.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a bit about the recording. Can we talk a little bit about the type of effects that were placed on the voices? Because it wasn't just flat. I heard a little bit of echo in there. I couldn't tell whether it was a delay. Like, what did you hear?
Oh, wow. Not knowing you were going to ask about that specifically, my best guess would be there's really just some reverb and like some delay a bit, and they probably doubled their parts. So not singing another note, but you sing your part and then you sing your part again just to have it be a bigger sound than just the six guys. A lot of times you won't do that with the bass part, but sometimes you will, especially being at the end of the 80s. A lot more reverb than they might do now, and maybe some delay just also to widen the amount of sound. Something that it's just occurring to me that kind of strays from your question, something that's interesting is Johnny Mathis is very well known for that vibrato. Got a very wide vibrato, right? Big vibrato. It stands out even more because the guys in Take Six, because of the tight structure of the chords, even if their voices want to do that naturally, a lot of times with those kinds of harmonies, it's pretty straight. The tone production is pretty straight. You might hear some vibrato happen at the end, just at the very end of a chord, kind of shimmer at the end of a phrase. But for the most part, all of those oohs and ahs, all the background parts they're singing are going to be very straight, which makes the contrast of his vibrato even greater. It's a pretty pronounced thing in his singing anyway, but that occurred to me. It's like, oh, wow. And then against all these very straight tone voices, the vibrato really, really stands out.
Let's go back to the doubling of voices. And you were talking about, and the delay as well. You were talking a little bit about widening the tone. Can you talk a little bit about why doubling helps with that?
So in recording, especially with just an a cappella group, live an a cappella group is effective because it's experiential. People are in the room with you. Sometimes they think there's even other instruments or recordings playing because they can't believe they're experiencing this thing where they see you standing there and they hear all of this sound, and there's this disassociation with like what you're doing. Oh, well, it must be another recording because they're just standing right there, but I hear drums and I hear the bass and I hear other sounds. So you have that live experiential. Now on a record, there's those 6 voices just on their own, as good as they are, it sounds just like 6 more voices. It would be nice if you could make up for the experiential thing that you lose live, and you'll sing again your part a second time. So now there's 12 of you. So that just sounds bigger. There's just more sound to deal with. Sometimes, depending on the texture or what you want to do in the arrangement, you might have 3 or 4 times doing your part. Maybe if you're just an ooh, again, like I mentioned earlier, like a keyboard playing some pads, you just want this big full sound. You might have each part do 3 or 4 of their ooh notes through a section maybe. And this isn't just for a cappella, and it's not just for background vocals. There are, if you start noticing in lead vocals, some great lead vocals that you've ever heard, there'll be times where maybe during a verse there's not a double, and now we get to the chorus, and because we want it to go up a step because the chorus is the big part, if you really listened, sometimes you can hear that lead vocal is singing it 2 times. They're trying to replicate themselves as much as they can, but that just gives it a bigger sound when they sing it again.
Yeah, I love that you say that. I remember hearing, I can't even remember which track it was, but I remember hearing a Madonna track where she was doubling herself. And the only way I could tell was that there was a breath that was slightly interrupting it. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was doubled. She was just that good, because the rest of it, you can't hear it. It was just in that one location where you heard a little bit of a breath. And going back to what you were saying about doubling, in some ways, it's almost the choral effect, right? You have a whole lot of voices singing together, and there's some kind of averaging out that happens as a part of each one of the voices that makes it sound fuller, because you have all of these different voices singing at the same time, and even the same voice layered over another. You were talking about vibrato before, and you were talking about why a lot of these close harmonies don't have the vibrato. And a big part of that is tuning, right? Because like a vibrato is the tuning going in a specific slightly up, slightly down.
Right, which isn't as big of a deal if you have big, major, minor chords, or big, major triads. Easier, there's more room for the wiggle than super tight, sharp 9 chords, etc., where all the notes are within a very small amount of space, where any wiggle makes the chords all indistinct and you can't hear what the tight chord is.
Well, and it sounds out of tune.
Right.
And that's something that, as someone who grew up singing pretty much straight all the time, man, it is hard for me to pull out a vibrato, but because of all of that training. But I think it is a particular style, and it has a particular role in it. And it's great to remind ourselves about, the role of certain types of singing in specific contexts, whether it is we're trying to do something very complex here and staying in tune or sounding like we're staying in tune, versus something that might be more stylistic.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something good for everybody to listen to when they go back and listen to it again. Now that we've talked about it, listen to those differences that we talked about. Those are great points, Elaine. Thank you.
Okay, so let's switch gears and talk about the instrumental breakdown here.
Our best friend, the melodica. So one of the keyboardists, I assume, on the session just played. I think that was an interesting choice. So as someone producing this, it's like, what can we do? Because we want this little interlude, but what do we do? And so something that doesn't dominate. So I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting as well, just to think about this completely a cappella piece and then introducing an instrument in there as well. And I think it is a choice, right? But at the same time, it has a very reedy sound that does stick out because it is a reed instrument, right? It has a specific type of timbre that is very similar to a double reed instrument. And so I think about the classical oboe, bassoon, and the double reeds just have a a particular timbre that sticks out. Can you talk a little bit about the melodica and the tonal differences between this and Take Six and Johnny Mathis's voice?
Oh, that actually could be the reason for the choice rather than, an actual regular piano or a keyboard solo. Maybe it is that readiness that puts it still in the voice category, yet different enough without literally being a saxophone. Interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. I've just always enjoyed that it was there and thought it was an interesting choice and just not something you hear very often. I think now that you ask, I think that probably was part of the choice. Like sonically as a producer, it's like, oh, okay, it's still going to stand out. It's going to stick out as the solo, but it's not going to be, a tuba or something else that's really different. It's going to be, it's like in the kind of the family of the voices. So yeah, maybe that's why.
All right. Well, any last thoughts about this?
I just love it. Obviously I'm a huge Take Six fan, sung with them, worked with and for them. Just great friends, amazing musicians, huge inspirations on my musical life. This is going to be a whole Take Six podcast if we really wanted it to be. So want to get more music out there. And this is a good way to actually sneak someone else in, like another genius like Johnny Mathis in, and talk about him as well and give him the flowers he deserves also.
Well, 100% with you there. And for those of you who haven't heard Take Six, they are still touring. So if they're coming to a city near you, definitely check them out because they are amazing. And hopefully they're listening to this podcast. Probably not, but like maybe.
Absolutely. And still make records. So they have another album coming out soon. So be on the lookout for that too.
Awesome. Well, with that, let's switch gears into our next segment, which is
Mailbag. Mailbag.
All right, so this week also comes from Threads. It was actually not a question. It was more something that I saw on Threads that I wanted to bring up. It is from the band Five, and it was a post that they had in November of 2025. Their Threads handle is It's Five Official. Now, they did a cute little skit, and it had each one of the members just doing a little bit of an advertisement, basically. And so my question for you is, what is the role of merchandise or any of these types of like marketing stuff just outside of your music, right? The things that are associated with you as your brand, but not necessarily your music itself when it comes to building up that brand or your business?
Wow. Interesting question. I think mostly the role that it serves is it helps your fan base feel like they're helping you. They might, especially these days, even if they're a big fan, if they don't buy physical audio products and they just stream you all the time, that's great. And it's great to have the support that way. But buying a t-shirt, a mug, etc., any of the things you would consider merch, it's just a way for the artist, especially at a show. You can do these things online, etc., but at a show, just after I had that experience, it's just that, man, I had that experience. I want to take that with me. And, they don't sell a CD or they don't sell vinyl. Those things go well at shows because they want that experience. Again, I'm talking about their experiential, these shows. So I want to take part of that thing with me. Even if they're not cognizant of it, they're supporting the artist that they really like so much. So I think that's one of the roles. It gives them a way to do that other than like a Patreon or some other kind of thing where there's a monthly thing that can work too, but it just helps that. And then of course, if it is a shirt or a hat and then people see it, and if it's an interesting enough design that says Take Six, what's that? Oh, let me tell you about this group I love. I think that's the main two roles. Obviously, it's advertisement for your brand. So putting your name on whatever it is, stickers, mugs, hats, t-shirts, whatever it is that you come up with. But again, I think it gives the opportunity for your fan base to contribute in a way.
Yeah, I love that you say that. I wonder how things have changed between the late 90s, early 2000s, and also
massively.
how things shift between, I would say, people with more mass market appeal versus maybe some of the more niche types of bands that are out there. I'm thinking about buying merch when you're at a Taylor Swift concert or any other kind of a thing where you're like, oh, I was here at this particular tour. But I also loved what you said about just the type of money that you are giving. Because I think that when you buy an album, or if you're streaming, this amount of money that comes per stream for an artist is very, very low. So for a lot of the indie artists that we know, the amount of streams that they have, it's infinitesimal, right? You're not making a ton of money out
it's
of
basically promotion to get you
Spotify.
to a show, right?
Exactly. So it's not a ton of money. Now you also have buying albums and, physical media versus any type of digital media. If you're doing some part of a platform like Apple Music or Amazon, you're still giving 30% away to the platform itself. And then you also have things like Bandcamp, where a lot more of that money is going to go to the artist. When you're seeing someone in person, a larger percentage of that money will go directly to the artist generally, as opposed to where you're buying online and there is going to be overhead for fulfillment or for...
That can be the case. It really depends. Some people actually don't make as much at the live because they had to have somebody there sell it. They needed a percentage of the seller for the house. And if your setup is like, oh, we just have a company that does all of our online merch, well, of course you're not getting as much because you're not doing anything but saying, yep, here's the symbols that we use. Here's the thing. Slap it on whatever you want to sell and you'll make money and send us the rest, etc. Or it's like, oh, it's in my basement and I printed them all myself and I bought all this stuff. And so, yeah, you're going to make more, but you spent so much time to make them happen. Yes, it's probably a little bit more frequent that we make more at the show, but it's negligible. And it really is it depends, I think, depends on the artist and the situation and the product.
When do you think a band should consider doing some kind of merchandise? When in the life cycle or maturity of a group does merch come into play?
I mean, I don't know if there's a perfect answer for that. There's some that just never really deal with it at all. These questions oftentimes are just a lot of it depends. What kind of music are you? What kind of act are you? Are you going to have a market where it's worth whatever time and investment for the return and for the gaining of the fans, et cetera? What is it going to take? How much do we have to put out? And what do we get back? Sometimes that's right out the gate, first concert you ever do. And you can also buy all this merch that we've got ready to go. And sometimes it's like, well, hey, 5 years in, we finally decided to make a t-shirt, so it just depends. Sometimes artists are just like, no, I just want to worry about this. Let's get this good before someone's promoting a thing that we don't think is good yet.
Yeah. It's interesting because I have been thinking about brand name recognition for a couple of different groups. Like one of them is us. Like, who is going to talk about the Musician's Loop? We have stickers that we now have on hand right now, and we are planning to hand out to anyone we see. And if you know us in person, come and see us about stickers because we have them. But the other thing, stickers. But the other group that I'm looking at is for my martial art. I happen to practice a martial art that is a little bit less known. And so getting our name out there as a system is something that we're really looking at developing. And so thinking about merch as being a part of that solution is a big part of it. And this is also coming from a martial art that has a 50-year background. So we're not talking about, oh, we've just started last week, And so we are going to think about branding and merchandising. But that is something that I think every musician should think about. What is the thing that you want to have associated with your brand, and how do you express that? Social media is one way of doing it. Merch is another way of doing it. And it is one of those things where if you have been well established, you can begin to think more about, how do I broaden my income streams beyond just music? And I think that's something that everyone should be thinking about, especially as we're looking at both active and passive income streams.
And again, it's just different for everybody. Our first song from Wolfpack, in a lot of ways, they use a scarcity model, both in their live performances and like in their merch. For the longest time, I think still right now, if you go to the website, if it's even still there, there's a black t-shirt with their logo in white. That's what they've got. For a while, I think you can buy their font. And I think you can buy an effect to use in recording, like a compressor. That's their merch. They have a compressor and a font and a t-shirt. And that works for them. I love that for the variety of just different. And yet I've bought t-shirts of theirs at concerts because I know that online they don't have all those t-shirts. I know that they only have the one. Oh, this one is for this concert. So I'm more likely to buy that because of the scarcity. I'm not going to be able to find this. This is the only place I can get this. I think I mentioned before where, they go into whole seasons where it's like, oh, this year we're going to do 6 concerts, but they're going to be at Red Rocks, Madison Square Garden, these huge places. So even when they do their records, they don't just go with the label and they're available in stores. It's like, nope, we're going with this place and they're going to make them. We're going to sell them for a month. However many we sell, that's how many are going to be printed. And that's all there'll ever be. They'll occasionally do a rerun, but they're not just in record stores everywhere like a normal artist might be. So for them, they like the scarcity model.
Instead of scarcity, maybe exclusivity is a better word for that, where you are talking about exclusive runs. You think about handbags or any type of luxury goods, that type of high-end production, but also, what you were saying about scarcity, but also
Limited.
The exclusiveness, whether it's an invite-only type of thing, it helps people to feel like they're special and that they're getting something that is truly one of a kind.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
That's it. Thanks for listening. We love some Take 6. Again, maybe I'll start a whole separate Just Take 6. No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, please feel free to reach out to us. You can get a hold of us via Instagram or Threads at The Musicians Loop, LOUPE, or you can email us at themusiciansloop@gmail.com.
Please do so.
Awesome. And with that, we will see you next week.
Almost like we know what we're doing.
About that.
I'm like, about that.
Sorry, I'm totally going to cut all of that out.
Well, it's for our doo-wop. It's the doo-wop version.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that. Yeah.